requests from some people to do spooky stories. So I'm gonna read you some old, like OG creepypasta that I love. Most of it is pretty short, and I think the best creepypasta is short. Without further ado, this is called The Railroad. My cousin and I had gone to San Antonio, and we had heard rumors of some haunted railroad tracks. The story was, a school bus full of children had stalled on these tracks with a train coming. The train was going too fast for there to be time to get the children off, so they all died. When we finally found the tracks, we stopped the car, parking it right on the railroad tracks. We were both a little nervous and scared and waited for something to happen. Just when we were about to leave, the car started rolling. We were both too freaked out to do any more than grab each other and gasp, eyes wide, mouths open. After what seemed like an eternity, but was actually less than 5 minutes, tops, the car stopped rolling. We looked around and we were off the railroad tracks. Now, that may not seem spooky, but what we saw next scared us enough to jump back in the car and make the 6-hour trip home that night. Both of us got out of the car and walked around to the back. After the first 6-hour drive, our car had accumulated quite a bit of dust on it. That's not scary, no. But what was scary was the little sets of handprints all over the back of the car, all the size of children's hands. This story is called A Mother's Love. One afternoon, a couple was traveling on by car when at a far distance they saw a woman in the middle of the road, waving frantically. The wife told her husband to keep on driving because it might be too dangerous, but the husband decided to pass by slowly so he wouldn't stay with the doubt on his mind of what might have happened and the chances of anyone being hurt. As they got closer, they noticed a woman with cuts and bruises on her face as well as on her arms. They then decided to stop and see if they could be of any help. The cut and bruised woman was begging for help, telling them that she had been in a car accident and that her husband and son, a newborn baby, were still inside the car, which was in a deep ditch. She told them that the husband was already dead, but that her baby seemed still to be alive. The husband that was traveling decided to get down and try to rescue the baby, and he asked the hurt woman to stay with his wife inside their car. When he got down, he noticed 2 people in the front seats of the car, but he didn't pay any attention to it and took out the baby quickly and got up to take the baby to its mother. When he got up, he didn't see the mother anywhere, so he asked his wife where she had gone. She told him the woman had followed him back to the crashed car. When the husband went back to look for her, he noticed that clearly the couple in the front seats were dead, one of whom was unmistakably the woman who had flagged them down. I think that's very sweet and beautiful. Next story. Sarah Oannon. I love this one. You're in for a fright. Wristbands used to be built with holes in them attached to 6 feet of copper tubing and a bell. The tubing would allow air for victims buried under the mistaken impression they were dead. In a certain small town herald, the local gravedigger, upon hearing a bell one night, went to go see if it was children pretending to be spirits. Sometimes it was also the wind. This time, it wasn't either. A voice from below begged and pleaded to be unburied. "Are you Sarah Oannon?" Harold asked. "Yes," the muffled voice asserted. "You were born on September 17th, 1827. "Yes." "The gravestone here says you died on February 20th, 1857. "No, I'm alive. It was a mistake. Take me up. Set me free." "Sorry about this, ma'am," Harold said, stepping on the bell to silence it and plugging up the copper tube with dirt. "But this is August. Whatever you are down there, you sure as hell ain't alive no more, and you ain't coming up." The sun is setting right now. My room is becoming dark. I'm about to spook myself out of here. This one is called Wristbands. When you are admitted to a hospital, they place on your wrist a white wristband with your name on it. But there are other, different colored wristbands which symbolize other things. The red wristbands are placed on dead people. There was one surgeon who worked on night shift at a school hospital. He had just finished an operation and was on his way down to the basement. He entered the elevator and there was just one other person there. He casually chatted with a woman while the elevator descended. When the elevator door opened, another woman was about to enter when the doctor slammed the close button and punched the button to the highest floor. Surprised, the woman reprimanded the doctor for being rude and asked why he did not let the other woman in. The doctor said, "That was the woman I just operated on. She died while I was doing the operation. Didn't you see the red wristband she was wearing?" The woman smiled, raised her arm, and said, "Something like this." This next one is a classic. Another favorite of mine. It's called The Other Watcher. A man went to a He almost knocked on the door out of curiosity, but decided not to. As he was still looking, the woman turned sharply and he jumped back from the door, hoping she would not suspect that he had been spying on her. He crept away from the door and walked back to his room. The next day, he returned to the door and looked through the wide keyhole. This time, all he saw was a redness. He couldn't make anything out besides a distinct red color, unmoving. Perhaps the inhabitants of the room knew he was spying the night before and had blocked the keyhole with something red. He felt embarrassed that he had made the woman so uncomfortable and hoped she had not made a complaint with the woman at the front desk. At this point, he decided to consult her for more information. After some gentle quizzing and the promise that the explanation would go no further than him, she finally said, "Well, I might as well tell you the story of what happened in that room. A long time ago, a man murdered his wife in there. We find that even now, people get uncomfortable staying there. But these people were not ordinary. They were white all over, except for their eyes, which were red." Oh, I am getting so happy I've got you guys with me. I'm getting so spooked right now. Bunch of noises keep making me want to jump. Oh, alright, this one. It's called Upstairs. When I was a child, my family moved to a big old 2-floor house with big empty rooms and creaking floorboards. Both my parents worked, so I was often alone when I came home from school. One early evening when I came home, the house was still dark. I called out, "Mom," and heard her sing-song voice say "yes" from upstairs. I called her again as I climbed the stairs to see which room she was in. Got the same "yes" reply. You know, that happy, jingly voice that mothers do sometimes. We were decorating at the time and I didn't know my way around the maze of rooms, but she was in one of the far ones, right down the hall. I felt uneasy, but I figured that it was only natural, so I rushed forward to see my mom, knowing that her presence would calm my fears, as a mother's presence always does. Just as I reached for the handle of the door to let myself into the room, I heard the front door downstairs open and my mother call, "Sweetie, are you home?" In a cheery voice. I jumped back, startled, and ran down the stairs to her. But as I glanced back from the top of the stairs, the door to the room slowly opened a crack. For a brief moment, I saw something strange in there, and I didn't know what it was, but it was staring at me. Okay, oh, this one. This one is called The Tape. During the summer of 1983, positioning the camera to include both her and her kitchen stove in the image. The tape then showed her turning on the oven, opening the door, crawling inside, and then closing the door behind her. 8 minutes into the video, the oven could be seen shaking violently, after which point thick black smoke could be seen emanating from it. For the remaining 45 minutes of the video, until the batteries in the camera died, it remained in its stationary position. To avoid disturbing the local community, police never released any information about the tape, or even the fact that it was found. Police were also not able to determine who put the tape in the well, or why the height and stature of the woman in the video didn't come close to matching the body they'd found in the oven. That one is one of my all-time favorites. It chills me to the bone. I think it might be the most chilling